All right, this is our last thing. Maybe House put like 45 minutes on the clock. We'll see how it goes. Gosh, I'm so excited to talk to all of you. So this is the panel that I've called Crosswords Equals Life. Every person on this panel's only job is to make freelance puzzles. Doesn't mean they're doing it all the time necessarily. I'm going to introduce all of them and then we're going to talk. Okay, Kate Hawkins. Worked for many years as a product manager for a variety of startups, nonprofits, big tech companies, and may yet again someday. Kate has had Crosswords published with the New York Times, in which she published a toilet-themed puzzle. The USA Today, ABCX, Puzzmo, Autostraddle, The Atlantic, Defector, and A24, which, when you sent this to me, you said that cool A24 book. Which, yes, it was very cool. Me and Will edited it, and this is Will, a professional puzzle maker who has published over 1,200 crosswords over the past decade, which that's just how long he's been counting, in venues including The Browser, Crossword Club, The New Yorker, Vox, Walrus, Magazine Antiques, and various Ontario newspapers. Will once wrote 2 15-by-15 puzzles with the same grid and clues, but completely different solutions, which many people, including Will, had not. Yeah, we can clap for that. Which many people, including Will, had previously assumed to be impossible. Will is a competitive crossword solver with wins at Lollapuzzoola and the Midwest Crossword Tournament, as well as a third-place finish as a rookie last year at the American Crossword Puzzle Tournament. His fastest time on a mainstream 15-by-15 crossword is 46 seconds. I will also say that Will is my most frequent collaborator. And I collaborate a lot. So we've made a lot of puzzles together. Ada Nicole is a freelance crossword constructor, who we all love, obviously, and author of the 2024 book, A to Gen Z Crosswords, 72 Puzzles That Hit Different. Ada has been featured in the New York Times. Who wrote that article? Maybe Adrienne Rafel. The USA Today, Apple News, and magazines such as Believer and Canada's Extra. As a solver, Ada is the reigning champion of the Lollapuzzoola Crossword Tournament. And Brendan Emmett Quigley has been a professional puzzle maker since 1996 and is the 6th most published constructor in the New York Times under Will Shortz's editorship. Brendan's puzzles have appeared basically everywhere, including ABCX, Creators Syndicate, Chronicle of Higher Education, Crosswords Club. I'm reading them all. Dell Champion.
Just skip a bit.
You did not send me a bio.
Just skip a bit.
I took this straight from, nope, you have to listen. This is what you get for not sending me a bio. I'm reading it from your website. Games
Listen,
Magazine.
if we're going to do the bio, then we're not going to have any time left. We're down like 41, 56 seconds.
Los Angeles Times.
Oh, jeez. Look.
The New York Sun.
Just skip a bit. Come on.
Tribune Media Services.
Just skip a bit.
USA Today.
Right.
2 more. Wall Street Journal and Washington Post.
Hooray.
Last sentence. Brendan has authored over 30 books and is a member of the Boston Typewriter Orchestra.
Yes.
All right. Okay. First question. Did you ever do a different job?
I was like a really good Firehouse Subs employee. They steam the meats. You're legally required to say that when you work there. Yeah, we steam the meats. And I also worked at No Frills, which is like, sorry, I worked minimum wage. I don't know what the other answer is.
All right, what else we got?
I was a product manager, and that's like a tech thing that you can do. But I didn't know you could do it until I started doing it. And it's actually kind of similar to Crossword, a little bit, because you like spend a lot of time thinking about the person you're building products for. And then it's a very human process of like solving a lot of problems that people and tech bring up between the problem and the answer. And so, yeah, I think there's some parallels. I did that for a very long time, and I might do it again, probably. We'll see.
I used to be in grad school before I did Crosswords. That's like kind of a job. I don't know if you count it as a job. Like I taught people and stuff and also did research. that's the only other thing that's been like I've never done like a day job kind of job other than Crosswords.
Well, I mean, I could tell you all the jobs I had, but we only got 40 minutes left.
Pick one.
I mean, I did catering. I was for like 3 days, I delivered packages around downtown Boston. That was awful. I actually quit on the in the middle of a delivery. I'm like, you know what, fuck this. I don't know. The last actual office job I had before I went all puzzles was I don't really know how I got this job. This was sort of like one of these random things that came from like a temp agency where they looked at this resume that basically says this guy's only qualifications is that he can write crosswords and was at one point a catering. And they said, do you think you could be a fact checker for this like medical magazine? And I'm like a hypochondriac, so I'm like, yeah, sure, let's do this. And I'm like reading all about these like, disease. I can't pronounce any of these disease names. And by the way, I like flunked out of like biology. So this was like seriously the best job I could have ever had. And so I'm reading this stuff, and I'm like, God, I'm going to get every one of these things that I'm reading about. And it was good times.
And that was that.
That was it, yeah.
So what was your journey like to doing only puzzles? Was it a deliberate decision? Was it just something that kind of happened? Was there a life event? Will, you want to start?
Yeah, speaking of grad school, I was in grad school. I got my PhD in linguistics. And I love linguistics. I love languages. That's why I'm into words, into crosswords. I don't love academia so much, at least some parts of it. So I was like half-heartedly applying to academic jobs, and I was like, it would be nice if I could do something that's not that, something that I like actually love all the time. And for me, crosswords are that thing. I wasn't really in a position to just do crosswords full time. It's very hard to do. We'll probably get into that. But I also had another opportunity come up to write quiz bowl questions, like intercollegiate trivia questions, basically, for this company that does tournaments. And they had me writing tons and tons of questions. So like I had like a source of a bunch of income, not enough to like live on, but enough where I could like have some money and like try to make crosswords and make more money off of that and make enough money overall to live. And after a couple years, it turned out that I could do that, and now I'm doing it.
I also kind of stumbled into it where in the 2010s, I was like very in tune with like online crossword communities, but I kept trying to start up my blog and then posting one puzzle and then failing and then hanging my head in shame and then not coming back to it for a year. And in 2020, I just had like more time. I had stuff that I like had finally finished, and I was like, I'm gonna put this out. And then sometime in the fall, I really wanted to buy music equipment. I really wanted to buy like a physical audio workstation. And I was like, how do I make money? Because I was working at No Frills, but the job hated me because I kept booking time off because I was in comedy school and I had assignments and whatever. So I sold like this newsletter where I posted a themeless puzzle every week, and people were like subscribing to that. And at the time, I was like working at this like sub shop, and I also had like just come out as trans. And I was like, it was sort of a weird like transient stage where like people don't know whether to call you your dead name. They don't know whether you're out yet. They don't know how to refer to you. And I was just like, I can't be in a public like setting like this. I need to find another thing. And so I started a Patreon, and then at that point I had like a few freelance gigs, and I was like, I'm just gonna keep doing this until I can find like an actual job that pays well. And I have not found a job since, so that's why I'm here.
I'm not sure this is applicable to anyone else, but I'll tell you why I don't currently have a different job. I didn't go to grad school, but my wife did, and she's an academic. And famously in academia, you have to move to places. So that tech job that I had, San Francisco is where I used to live, famously really good for tech jobs. And rural New Hampshire which is where she got a job, is a little less good. I was working remotely, but that's is annoying. It's not that fun. I wanted to kayak, which is rural New Hampshire, great for kayaking. So I've been taking a little bit of time. And the great thing about doing Crosswords is kayaking is also a very solo pursuit, and I'm a very extroverted person. I like working with other people. I like making things with other people. And so being able to do Crosswords, which is something you can actually sort of do while you're kayaking or cross-country skiing or taking care of 2 kids or the other things I do with all my time, is something I can do in rural New Hampshire while pursuing my many other hobbies that I can do out in the forest and on the river. So, yeah.
You want to tell us?
What was the question?
Like how this got to be what you're doing, your journey.
Yeah, well, I think probably for most people of my generation, it was growing up with Games Magazine. I mean, that was like so. Yeah, give it up. I mean, they can hear it from here, please, a little bit louder. No, games was like just hit. What's the name? What's
different?
Hit,
hit different.
Hit
Yeah,
different, man. You know. I'm going to use that. If I can remember the phrase, I'm going to use that.
I did not come up with the byline for that book, by the way. I came up with the title alone.
There you
and
go.
the puzzles.
Okay. So it's sort of like okay. All right. I like that. But anyway, so games, yeah, that just it was. I mean, I didn't understand any of the puzzles. I mean, it was like in grade school. My dad bought me the magazine thinking it was about video games, and boy was he wrong. And so, but it was fascinating, and I mean, I didn't understand any of these things. They were even like the real like 1-star puzzles. I mean, I maybe get like a few of them, but I sort of. Would look at the puzzles and then get in and then go to the answer page and see how the magic trick worked, and it just was so fascinating to me. Like, oh man, you could do that, you could do this, and that was it. I mean, it was just a monthly influx of wildly creative stuff, and my fate was sealed, basically.
And how did that turn into like the freelance life?
Oh, how did that turn into it? Time, like time elapsed. Oh, the calendar pages.
Yeah, we see it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, see, 32. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. It's how does anything happen? I guess it's just you sort of like it's like one day follows the next, right?
Well, Kate just said that hers happened because her wife moved to rural New Hampshire. So was there such an event for you, or just time?
Well, no, I mean, I guess that was. I guess like the reason I brought up that magazine was that it just sort of took over my imagination, and it was just like I couldn't imagine not doing something like this. And I think like. I remember like reading in the fan letter for They Might Be Giants fan letter that an extra in one of their videos wrote Crosswords. And I didn't even like Crosswords at the time. Again, still loving the rest of the Games magazine, but just thinking like, shit, this is someone's job? That's crazy. And maybe I could do something like that. And then like 6 years later.
Yeah, then we get the time.
The calendar page is going by. So I don't know. I mean... I hope that answer does that answer work for you guys?
Yeah, this is good. I'll accept it.
Okay, that's good.
So Will said, that freelancing puzzle making is hard. You want to talk about it being hard? How much time does it take? If you're doing it to sort of, maybe Kate's out there kayaking, but but if you're doing it to try to hit like a quota or hit a certain amount of money, what's that like?
Yeah, it's just hard because like it takes a lot of money to live. Especially these days, I don't know if you've heard, but you need a lot of money, and there's only so much money in the crossword economy. There's more now than there used to be because like crosswords are having a big thing. So like a lot of venues have crosswords that didn't used to, and other kinds of word games too, not just crosswords. But there's still a limited amount of money in the crossword space, and there's a bunch of constructors who are sort of competing for that money. And you have to kind of cobble together the amount of money you need to survive. I'm lucky because my wife has like a normal job. She works for the government, so she has like a stable source of income.
Not this government.
Not this government, the Canadian government. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So
Give it up for Canada.
So that helps, and it helped a lot. Like first getting into it, to know that even if I totally failed at making money, the family would still have some amount of money. But that's the challenge, and just cobbling it together from a bunch of different sources, as opposed to getting a job at a specific venue where it's like you're just editing for that venue.
Ada, your situation's presumably pretty different.
I mean, I'm 23 living in Toronto, so I don't have a family like Will does to take care of. But I don't know. Me and Will both share like an editing gig at Crossword Club, which is a daily MIDI crossword website. And I'm lucky enough that is most of my rent, especially since I get paid in USD and that conversion is sweet. So I'm able to afford like a place in Toronto and then, the cheapest groceries. So no frills. Damn right. We're doing callbacks, all about callbacks today. So yeah, it's really like doing the Crossword Club stuff, having my Patreon, knowing that I'm going to make like rent and basic stuff from that. And then really it's like quality of life will be improved if I just manage to sell more puzzles this month. And I'm always making puzzles anyway, so it's sort of like, it's convenient. I sell puzzles because it's the one thing I'm doing all the time. It's the one thing I can sell pretty consistently.
Brendan, you got any?
Remind me of the question again.
Is it hard to do this? Like, how much time do you spend on it?
Yeah, it's exhausting. I don't know why my wife didn't divorce me, but because right after we got married and I'd lost some sort of regular gigs, I said, I'm gonna give away all of my puzzles for free, and I don't really know where the money's coming from, and that's why I'm saying I'm surprised she didn't divorce me right then and there. But I love Liz. Liz, when you're watching this stream, hello. So the challenge is, Will's right and Ada's right. Cheap groceries, kids are expensive. I live in Boston. Everything's expensive. It's not as expensive as New York, but still. So it's just publish or perish. You just gotta write, keep writing. That's it. It's the Minutemen said if you're not playing, you're paying. So that's sort of my philosophy. If I'm not playing with words, I'm spending money. So that's it.
Kate, do you empathize with?
Seems really, really hard to do this. I don't, when Brooke proposed this panel, I was like, I don't know if I'm an appropriate person. I don't know if I have anything to say. I'm just going to talk about kayaking, and crosswords are really fun and a way to be social and mentally engaged, which is all true. But it is it's a growing ecosystem, and there's wonderful people in it. It is also really not set up to provide a full-time job or income for more than maybe 10 people out there, I think. And now there's new editor jobs, and there's new expanding roles at legacy publications and new publications and things like Puzzmo, and it's very exciting. And yet it is not a lot of full-time. I would find it very hard to imagine many people working this hard, and it is hard. It's creative and ongoing and relentless, and when there's a deadline for me in a crossword world that I've signed up for, my brain shuts off and I have no interest in, sorry, Brooke, that book, But working on a deadline and working in a creative field where you have to do output in order to live or to fulfill contracts is challenging, and I admire you for all being able to do that.
I also want to add to that the fact that it's very hard to make a living off of crossword puzzles. People see crossword puzzles in the newspaper and they're like, oh, so you must submit enough to the New York Times to make a living off of it. And that's no, you need to figure out all the small venues that want a crossword puzzle and build up enough of a repertoire with them that there's a bunch of income sources and you need to do it like mostly independently and figure out how to make the money that way. Unless you have like an incredible hit rate with the editor of a well-paying place, which I don't.
I mean, honestly, in some ways, it's easier now than it was when I started out. I mean, I'm such an old fart. I sold the first puzzle I sold, Crosswords weren't even on the internet. And then, so that was a huge like pouring of gasoline on the fire that was Crosswords, because up until that point you had to buy books or have subscriptions or go to libraries or something like that, and then suddenly you're like, oh, if I can type Sydney Morning Herald .au, I guess, but then I can do their crossword. I could do the Times of London. But suddenly you had all these crosswords at your disposal. So that was a huge influx of things. And then of course everyone's been talking about how COVID then put that bonfire and made it like the burning sun of like 1,000 universes of like this unquenchable thirst for people wanting puzzles and content and stuff. So in some ways, I think someone with initiative, like going out there saying the hell with it, I'm putting up this Patreon, see what happens, put my stuff on a blog, just just try to build a brand for yourself. It's unbelievable. Like for me to try to get like a regular gig back in the old days, I'd have to like email someone and be like, hey, I think Car and Driver would actually really benefit having a crossword puzzle, and we can have like this thing, and they're like, don't ever respond to it. And so it was like the only way you got a gig is if someone who already worked for the magazine, or where it was always a magazine because there weren't as many online puzzles, just happened to be, hey, I kind of like crosswords, and like, hey, can we do something about this, Bill? So I mean, like the hit rate for that was minuscule. So, but whereas now you can just get a couple puzzles in, like Puzzmo, Times, wherever, you get a few of them, start a blog, and very quickly you can have a brand name. And that's the thing that all of us have here, because, you're just giving away content, and, this is a theme that you bring up a lot, leaning into your voice, right? And so then it's easier in some ways to get gigs. It's still hard because obviously economics, there's only so much money going around. Will's right. We're all fighting for table scraps. But compared to like the Stone Ages, so it's way easier now.
And would you say like it's easier for you now than it was then?
The plural you, meaning everyone in the... No. I'm saying you as everyone. For me, no, I mean, I crossword gigs... we all know this. Some of them last a long time, and some of them are, they're enjoyable for 6 months. And then, hey, well, that was fun while that lasted, and you move on. So, I mean, I don't think... What was the question?
Well, we were talking about how it's easier for people now because they can build brands. And I was wondering, for you personally, do you find it easier to find gigs now or back in the old days?
Well, I mean, it is easier now, but I don't know. I've sort of stopped like soliciting gigs. So I've been fortunate enough to sort of like when it, I
Car and Driver's coming to you now.
No. But I mean, like we talk online. I talk to Evan all the time. So it's like we all just know. I used to talk to Will all the time. He's been ignoring me. So, but.
Now I talk to Will all the time.
Okay.
It's great. We have great conversations without you.
Well, now I know why. But the point is like, you just hear, hey, I don't want this gig, you want this? Or, hey, I hear they're looking for some content. You should. So, you become part of the clique, I guess.
It is. Oh, go ahead.
I'll say I credit a lot of like the opportunities I've gotten to Eric Agard and Brooke Cusick, especially in 2020, 2021. Like they were really taking chances on me being like, hey, you should like try out for this like crossword roster or whatever, or like you should be a part of this. And
or like you should make a book.
Yes. Oh my God. The reason I have a book is because I mentioned to Brooke offhand, I was like, I might create like a book or a PDF as a Patreon perk. And she was like, no, pitch a book to Francis Heaney. And I was like, oh, okay. And then it got accepted, and it blew my mind. And I will always like thank Brooke for that. Yeah, let's give it up for Brooke.
We're giving it up for Ada. So I started making crosswords when I was a scientist, and it was just like a fun thing I did that was much easier than chemistry. And then over the course of years, for a variety of reasons, I stopped doing science, and now I do crosswords all the time. And I just like find it so hard to find sacred time to just play and explore with making crosswords. I feel like I have so many crosswords to make and so many crosswords to edit that I'm like, if I don't have anything to show for this hour of just like exploring a grid that I couldn't fill, like I shouldn't do that. I should do my deadlines. And it sucks. Like I have ideas that I wish I could just spend a day playing with and maybe show nothing for it, and I don't do that because I feel too guilty about using that time for that. But at least these three of you, who are the ones who are like not kayaking, all of you
Hey now.
all of you post free puzzles all the time. You update a free blog twice a week. You update usually weekly, sometimes less, and you post free puzzles all the time too. And I'm like, how do you find time to do that when you're like grinding for the paid stuff?
My blog hasn't been updated since December, so I have a hard time putting out free stuff frequently, but it is just really nice to have a personal outlet where you can be like, this is my stuff that I wanted to make this not out of an obligation for money. I just wanted to put something out there to like, I don't know, prove that I like proving to myself that I still can like make new types of puzzles that I really like. And that's like, it doesn't have to be like innovative. I just like, one thing I get really into is like, I just have a book of grid paper, and I just like kind of freeform put words and cross them and see what I can come up with without software. Like, it doesn't have to be symmetrical. It doesn't have to be like entirely like in the language as phrases go, but I just want to see what ideas are stuck in my brain that I want to get out in a grid form. And I posted one of those on my blog. It's called Handwritten Freestyle number 2. The first one I wrote for a thing called Crossworder.com. They were doing like a trial of that. And I put it out there, and I was just like, hey, I wanted to see what would happen if I wrote a crossword in a way that's totally, it reminds me of like procrastinating on homework, writing it in the corner of a page that, you know, wasn't for anything. And I really like finding new ways to approach puzzle making. And the blog is also just like, it allows more experimentation because it has an almost 100% acceptance rate.
Yeah, I post a lot of free puzzles on the blog, and for me it's because I have to. The reason I do this as a job is because I need to like create stuff to feel like I'm being a fully fledged person doing stuff in the world. So if I was just doing my gigs, I mean, some of the gigs you can sort of like be creative and do work that you're really happy with and excited about. Some you're not. Like, not everything is the Sistine Chapel ceiling where you're breaking your neck, leaning back to try to paint it or whatever. Some, you know, you're trying to do good puzzles for the venue, but it's not the most exciting work. And I need to be doing exciting work, so that's where I put the blog stuff. And a lot of ideas are just like, they're not going to work at other venues. Like, they're just too weird or too ephemeral or too, I don't know, personal, so they have to go there. So I just have no choice, so I find the time. And I don't feel guilty about it because, you know, it's my job. It's not making me money, but it's my job, so I don't feel guilty.
Please check out his blog puzzles.
I mean,
They're
all
so
of your
good.
blog puzzles.
Everyone here has a blog. I recommend you check out
Hey,
all
you
of
got
our
a blog?
blogs.
No.
Find her
I
puzzles
do.
elsewhere.
A lot of what you just said about it out when you just have to do it. I actually make a lot of puzzles that are not crosswords for real life people in my real life, true life, that are not relevant to anyone other than the 4 people who are going to get whatever that weird picture puzzle I made for them is. So I get that. Just not hustling to build a brand, but maybe I should. Seems really hard.
Tell me about
I
your
mean,
blog.
Will nailed it. It's just like, when I started just giving the puzzles away, I went Radiohead, I guess is what the cool kids said. It was so freeing. It was, excuse the double entendre there, but it was freeing just to do, and not worry, and mistakes are going to be made. Some puzzles aren't going to land. Some puzzles are going to hit. Some are going to be weird. But it was just, I think I became better when I sort of took the shackles off, and it's, I don't know. I'm just going to repeat what Will's saying. It's just this is what we do. And so you get up and you do it. Like friends of mine who've written books, they get up, they read voraciously, and then they just start writing. And friends who are in bands, they listen to every piece of music put in front of them, and they pick up an instrument and start writing songs. It seems to me like kind of the same thing with like Crosswords. I'm still Natan, we do it on pencil and paper, right? I got my printouts right here in my pocket, and just start solving those, and then when I'm done, go over and just see what the muse takes me. So.
Is there anything I haven't asked that you really want to say?
I guess I'll say one thing, which is why I probably don't have a blog, though I do own more URLs than I should.
Any examples?
Coming soon. No, it's actually, there's so many venues that give me so many different outlets for different things I want to be talking about in puzzles. And I think if those didn't exist, which 5 years ago they didn't all exist, that would be a very different universe. I mean, an example of this is Autostraddle, which is a nice little queer website that, a friend of mine decided she'd have a puzzle, and wonderful to have a little puzzle community there. Has given me an outlet to basically write a half dozen minis, like 5x5, that all somehow are related to the early 2000s Charlie's Angels movie. And personally, that is important to me and what I want to see in a puzzle. And if I didn't have that outlet, I would probably have found a different way to create that space for myself. And I think that's also true with the puzzles you're editing at Puzzmo and the voice that I can have there, and the, small changes in other venues that have really allowed for the things I want to talk about and see and write clues around and cross with other Lucy Liu references is like, I think if those didn't exist, my blog presence would be much more interesting for all of us.
In their talk, Rob highlighted one of your clues, the one about your CVS journey, and maybe like if we hadn't to put that at Puzzmo, you would have had to get out into the world. I will say our fact checkers could not verify.
It's really true.
Do you want to tell
every
tell
bit
the
of it?
people?
Well, this is a good example. CVS is in the grid, and there's actually a very magical experience anyone can have at a CVS. And in Manhattan, if you just approach it properly, it's in a former bank. It can be really magical to be there. And Burke helped me turn that clue into a beautiful story about a time I bought a Diet Coke and was amazed about life and living it and being in a CVS inside a former bank. And I would be looking for venues for that kind of clue if there wasn't one already.
And look, it helped Rob become a constructor. Anyone trying to say something that I haven't given you the chance to say?
I think like the way that I was able to get like into crosswording as like a career is just because I was like obsessed with them. Like I love crossword puzzles, and the one piece of advice I tell anybody who's like starting out in crossword puzzles is do it for you first. I feel like a lot of times people write crossword puzzles because they're like, oh, being in the New York Times would be a cool like bucket list item. Or maybe sometimes it's like, yes, this is like a smart person thing to do, so I'm gonna like be a smart person and make crossword puzzles or whatever. And like the joke I always make is like, you don't start knitting to get into Knitting magazine. like you start knitting
Hang on.
because you want to. Yeah. you start knitting because you want to make something cool, right? And so crosswords are like my version of a thing that's really cool to me. It's kind of like my reward for paying attention to the world around me and making it all fit in a grid. I really like seeing like parts of culture intersect with each other in like this very sort of like predestined way where the letters just fit, you know? So I like my biggest piece of advice is just like make it because you like to make it, and make the ones that you would like to solve. Figure out what you like in crossword puzzles and chase that, because eventually if you just keep making puzzles you like, that means you keep making puzzles, and every time you make a puzzle you get better at making puzzles, and then you become so good at it then that you can't hold down
cigars with $100 bills.
Yeah, you can't hold down any other
100
job
USD.
because you're making crossword puzzles all the time. And yeah, that's do it for you.
But I'm gonna put a little star there. Like, I am a serial hobbyist, so there's the kayaking we all know about, and I don't do that so that I can tell people about kayaking. And I'm like learning accordion, and
Have
I
you
definitely
been in
tell
Kayaking
people.
Magazine?
I don't play accordion so that other people can hear me. Like yet, nowhere near
That's
there.
not KatePlaysAccordion.com.
No, you guys will never figure it out. But I do write crosswords because it actually, as part of it, is interactive in a very human way with somebody solving them. I don't think, like, I whittle and make spoons, and I don't care if anyone is ever going to use one of my spoons. Like,
Yeah.
it's cool. I like learning a new thing to do with my hands. I don't have whittling. There's a lot of hobbies. But crosswords are really fun because they're social in a way that sometimes is the interaction between like the editor you're working with and the parameters that are set out for you. But every time I'm writing a puzzle, it's actually to be solved. And I'm not like imagining a person, but I'm creating a thing that's a very human, multi-directional experience. My spoons are going to like sit there and like,
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen to them. But a puzzle is like to be engaged with in a human level in a way that's extremely satisfying. So yes, make puzzles that you want to see. And like, I'm only making puzzles I want to see these days, which I recommend. But also like, it's very human and very social, even if you're doing it alone in a kayak.
I mean, the other thing I do is like stand-up comedy, and it's like sort of there's some obvious like relations between the two. It's like there's, you know, wordplay and whatever, but it's like you're taking this personal experience, your personal point of view, and you want it to be accessible to the audience so that they laugh and they understand that they're able to solve the joke, if we're doing that metaphor. But it is still like you gotta find yourself funny. you gotta like what you're putting out. Because if nobody ends up solving it, then do you even have a thing that you like? Or did you make a thing because you thought other people would like it and now they're not solving it? You know?
Think about that.
Yeah.
I just finished writing a puzzle recently that is, I think it's unsolvable by like people, but it's going to be out in the world soon, and people who try to solve it will see why I made it that way, and hopefully it's still fun. That's kind of an exception, I guess. That proves the rule.
Will's just a different breed of person, I think.
You know, when you were talking about like great stuff that Will's done, why didn't you mention the and goes out with a bang? Was that what it was called? He wrote a cryptic, a block cryptic, where every clue was an and lit. And when you write an and lit, you know, the clue ends with a exclamation point. So that was a tour de force.
You gotta explain what an and lit means.
Okay, yeah. So with cryptic crosswords, there's like exactly two parts to the clue. Half the clue is a straight definition, and the rest of it is some sort of riddle to give you the same answer. And so the art of cryptic construction is that you want to write clues that read like normal sentences, and to sort of hide the two pieces. And so an and lit clue, the whole definition is the clue, but the exact same series of words can be done in a riddle fashion to give you the same answer. So it's and literally. And anyway, sorry, I just wanted to rave about that tour de force, but I'm sure the audience for that is
Very excited to solve it when it came out. Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly.
all three of us. So John Delphin was one of them. I think he's in the back.
Well, I just introduced people with the things they told me to say, except you, because you did not give me a bio.
Yeah, well, I had stuff to do.
Will, any was that the thing you wanted to tell the people, or you have any other?
Oh no, that was not the thing. Well, I just want to say that I don't want to give the wrong impression about this job. Like, I feel that I'm incredibly lucky to do this as a job. Like, it's not a hard job compared to jobs that exist in the world. Like, it's not coal mining or whatever. It's a precarious job, but objectively, it's like an easy job. And it's just amazing that I can do it for a living, and that is thanks to venues like Puzzmo, people like Brooke, and people like all you people who solve the puzzles so that we can make them for people to solve. So I'm very happy for that.
I think it is a little bit like coal mining, and that's only because I have a canary in the room, and if it falls down dead, I'm like, shit, I blew another deadline. So.
Was that the last thing you wanted to say, or do you have another?
Oh,
one?
I got more of these, but I don't know how much more time
Raise
we
your
have.
hand if your home office is in the mines.
You get one more last thing to leave people with, and then we'll do some questions.
I got nothing.
No. You already had yours. Brendan was the last one. Okay, we're gonna do questions. Orda, can you take that mic? And Zach, you got a mic? All right, in the middle. Carolyn, I can't see. Specify if your question is for someone or if it's like for the group, but not everyone is going to answer every question, so we get more questions.
Thank you for this awesome panel. My question is for any or all of you who want to weigh in, Brooke included.
Not all.
Okay. Any subset, fewer than 5 of you who want to weigh in, but you included, Brooke. And my question is about sort of the relationship when you do this as a career between being a constructor and being an editor for Crosswords. And this could be from the angle of as a creative pursuit and taking on a new way to engage in the art form, or from like a social pursuit and mentoring and developing others, but also from like a career and financial pursuit of taking on a different role in the broader like crossword machinery in order to have jobs and make this be a full-time thing, and how you kind of transitioned or how those fit together for you.
Maybe Will and Ada can hit that.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. Periodically, there's like full-time editor jobs that come up, and I'm like, it would be a very smart career decision to like apply for this job, and I never do, because as I said, I want to be able to create, and some people manage to have full-time jobs and create puzzles on the side. In fact, most crossword constructors are in that position, right? And that would be ideal if I didn't have 2 small children to take care of. I could do that. But for me, I'm just focused on writing. So I do some editor gigs, but it's a minority of my time, and I like it that way personally.
I'm kind of in the same boat where I mostly like the writing part of it, and editing, I have a hard time keeping up with editing, but I don't know. I just like being able to work with a constructor and help them bring their voice out. I mean, Brooke has told you all about it. It's a pretty fun gig.
I've like transitioned to most of my time being editing, which is not because I like editing better, but I'm like trying to change things. I think the crosswords are really messed up. I think it's wild what we think of as state of the art. I think it's wild what we accept as okay. And I think that I have the most power to change that when I am at the top of a venue or when I'm editing. And that overrides my also intense desire to create things. More questions? Evan? Orda, can you give the mic to Evan? Orda, come up front. Okay, then we'll get to the back.
Thank you.
Let us know if it's for someone.
It's probably for Ada, because you mentioned publishing the book, and that's something that I've really struggled with myself, because I've never really understood like which puzzles, like even if you have a big, repertoire of puzzles that you've published, I've never really known what's the best puzzles that you should include, and like what, like how do you sort of go about that process? Do you just, were you creating new puzzles for this book? Were they old puzzles that were on your Patreon? You know,
It was 42 puzzles from my Patreon, and it was originally going to be more. It was like 72 puzzles overall. I wanted 62 of them to be from the Patreon, and then I realized I didn't have that many puzzles that I liked from my Patreon, and so I wrote 30 for the book. It was just a few months of me just making grids all the time, hoping that stuff stuck and wanting to put those in the book. And I guess in my head I was like, these are all the puzzles I like right now. If I don't like them in a few years, I'll write another book. Yeah.
Who had questions in the back?
Hello. I don't know exactly who this would apply to, hopefully at least one of you, but I was curious if you do other word games or puzzles besides crosswords and kind of how that ties in or how it feels different from designing crosswords.
Brendan, you just
Yeah.
did one.
So maybe a week or 10 days ago, the Boston Globe started running. I co-created a game with Ben Gottlieb called Align, and it's basically a crossword jigsaw. There's no clues. We sort of give you a 5x5 section, and then you sort of reconstruct the crossword based on some of the givens and whatnot. So check it out. You know, it's I don't have the website. I don't have anything for it, but you know, Align and the Globe.
Zine?
So I know I that zine was awesome.
But what's it like doing that?
What's it like?
That
doing
was the
that?
question, right? Like when you do make other games that are not crosswords.
Well, it's actually really well. It's a different part of the brain, and I think it sort of ties into. So, for me, a vast majority. If you look at the pie chart of like my income, like the biggest slice is American crosswords, right? And then there's like little tiny slivers, and like I've started selling some cryptics to the Times of London. And then Align is going to be a new one. And what I love about those is that it's using a completely different part of my brain. Yes, they're all like, at the end of the day, words go one way, words go the other way. There's some sort of mechanic for you to figure out what those words are. So, but I enjoy it because it's like, I have to approach this differently than I'm going to, because I've created new, you know, because if it's a cryptic, then I have to think about the clues. If it's an Align puzzle, I have to think about these, arbitrary rules that Ben and I have come up with for what makes a good grid. And yeah, I don't know. What was the question again?
That was great. Kate or Will, you want to say something?
I was going to go back to like, even as a solver, you know, if you start constructing, you'll probably get faster at solving. And then even if you solve a lot of puzzles, you don't get as many minutes of pleasurable solving in your day because you're really good at it and you're not struggling through it. And I would make a big recommendation for cryptics in this land. And also for starting to construct them, it's an entirely different way of thinking, and it's very pleasurable. And it slows you down in a very different way that, again, I can make a billion spoons, but then if someone asked me to make like a train set, I'd have to like relearn how to use a knife. And so it's been very pleasurable to sort of dabble in that and be bad at something. It's fun to be bad at something and like gradually improve. And there's increasingly accessible cryptics out there. And I'm lucky enough to have a network of people who are really nice and patient as I struggle through being bad at writing cryptics, but it's pleasurable.
We had maybe one more question in the back. We'll take that one and then wrap it up.
This is for anybody. We already talked about the hypothetical car and driver crossword. I'm just wondering if any of you have a dream publication or institution that you'd love to make a crossword for or collab with in your wildest dreams.
I mean, if the answers are quick, we can all answer it. But if you don't have an idea, you can pass.
I want to find like a barber-themed magazine and write barber crossword. I feel like they're an untapped market.
I would say those would be cutting edge, right?
That's the first theme.
And we're done. We'll see you at the bar.
I think the Criterion Collection's magazine should have a crossword. I emailed them a while ago, but they didn't respond. So Maybe I'll email them again. That was like years ago.
I'll start writing puzzles for that once you get it going.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sort of glad that this is that part of my life is no longer a thing of having to like cold call. Hey, ESPN the magazine, remember that? You guys need a crossword. So, but I did actually. I got in touch with them through Bill Simmons. I was just like, oh, I'm gonna roll the dice, you know. And he actually replied, and I was like, cool. He's like, you should, you know, hey, weren't you guys thinking about this? And they didn't buy it, but. That's their loss. That's probably, you know, if they had one of my crosswords, it would still be running. ESPN, the magazine. Mark my words. And let me tell you. I don't know. How about you, Brooke? Do you have any places you want to have your work?
I made the place I wanted. and
Surely there's another one.
Orda really helped me do it. And Zach. I don't know. I thought writing the A24 book with Will was really cool. A24 has put out 2 books of crosswords, and Will and I co-edited the second one. And it was a really sweet gig. And they were like, make it about TV, but doesn't have to be our TV. And I thought that was really nice.
Yeah, that was awesome.
But that's all I got.
The most pleasurable thing for me is watching friends of mine who never solve crosswords come together. Like when I have a puzzle out, sometimes I'll get people together at a bar and they don't solve crosswords and they don't even know each other, and they'll come together and they'll solve a puzzle I've written together with people who don't even know each other, which is not the normal experience of writing. Like, you don't get to watch people solve your puzzle, but that is a delightful experience. So if there was an opportunity to write a puzzle that I got a lot of friends in a room and they were solving it together, that would be my dream venue, I think.
Actually, and a question I didn't ask, I was going to mention, is Ken still here? Ken turned 50 recently. Let's go. His wife secretly commissioned me to write a birthday crossword for him, and I think it's my favorite gig I've ever done. I worked so hard on it. I could not justify the time that it took. And it was just, I don't know how many people have solved it, like 10 max, you know? How many people have solved the version you solved? One, you? Maybe two. And it was just so, it was so incredible to be like, you're my friend. I feel like I know you well enough that I can make something you're really gonna enjoy, and I was right. And I kept showing you more Easter eggs in it, and that was really fun. And I feel like I don't do commissions. Like when people email me and they ask to commission, I usually send them to Will. But I take very special commissions from people who I'm really good friends with. Third commission I've ever done, and that's the dream, I think. Just keep doing that. Okay, let's give it up for everybody here.